Have you ever looked at a map and wondered how a country's geography shapes its destiny? For Ethiopia, a nation of over 120 million people, being landlocked isn't just a geographical fact, it's a multi-billion-dollar problem and, in the words of its own leaders, an existential threat. Today, we're diving deep into Ethiopia's ambitious, controversial, and high-stakes gamble to reclaim its access to the sea. This is the story of the Red Sea 2030 vision. Will Ethiopia become a maritime power once again? Since 1993, when Eritrea gained independence, Ethiopia has been one of the world's most populous landlocked countries. Imagine running a massive business, but the only way to get your products to the global market is through a single, very expensive toll road owned by your neighbor. That's essentially Ethiopia's situation. Over 90% of its trade, everything from coffee beans to industrial machinery, funnels through the port of Djibouti. The price tag for this reliance? Billions of dollars in port fees every single year. This isn't just about money. It's about vulnerability. If political winds shift, or if that single trade artery is ever blocked, Ethiopia's economy could grind to a halt. For a country with a rapidly growing population and ambitions to become a regional powerhouse, this dependence is seen as a critical weakness. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has been very clear. Securing direct sea access isn't just a desire, it's a national security imperative. It's about ensuring Ethiopia's economic survival and future growth. Without it, the fear is that the nation's progress could be permanently choked off. So, how do you solve a problem of this magnitude? You make a bold move. And in January 2024, Ethiopia did just that. It signed a Memorandum of Understanding or MOU with Somaliland, a self-declared republic that broke away from Somalia in 1991. This isn't just any agreement. It's a potential game-changer. The deal proposes to lease a 20-kilometer stretch of coastline to Ethiopia for 50 years. This would allow them to build a commercial port and, crucially, establish a naval base right on the shores of the Gulf of Aden. The chosen location is near the port of Berbera, a strategic choke point for global shipping. By securing this access, Ethiopia aims to achieve two critical goals. First, to diversify its trade routes, breaking free from the costly reliance on Djibouti and creating competition that could drive down prices. Second, and perhaps more importantly, it's about projecting power. A naval base on this vital waterway would give Ethiopia a strategic foothold in one of the most important maritime corridors on the planet, allowing it to protect its own future shipping and assert itself as a key regional player. In return for this access, Ethiopia has reportedly offered Somaliland something it desperately wants: potential formal recognition as an independent state. However, redrawing maps, even with a pen, is never simple. Ethiopia's deal with Somaliland immediately ignited a diplomatic firestorm. The federal government of Somalia, based in Mogadishu, was furious. From their perspective, Somaliland is not an independent country but an integral part of Somalia. They see this more as a direct violation of their national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Mogadishu's government immediately nullified the agreement, recalled its ambassador from Addis Ababa, and appealed to international bodies like the Arab League and the African Union for support. This has created a major crisis in the Horn of Africa. Somalia has vowed to defend its territory by any means necessary, raising fears of a potential conflict that could destabilize an already volatile region. Neighboring countries and international partners are now walking a tightrope. On one hand, they want to support regional stability. On the other, they have their own interests to protect. Ethiopia's move has forced everyone to pick a side in a long-simmering dispute, turning a bilateral agreement into a complex geopolitical chessboard. And speaking of chessboards, the Red Sea is one of the most crowded in the world. Ethiopia's maritime ambition isn't happening in a vacuum. The Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden are a critical artery for global trade, connecting Europe and Asia through the Suez Canal. Because of this, global and regional powers have been scrambling for influence here for years. The United Arab Emirates, for example, has been a major investor in the Berber port itself. China has its one and only overseas military base just a stone's throw away in Djibouti. Egypt, a historic rival of Ethiopia, views any change in the regional power balance with extreme suspicion, especially concerning the flow of the Nile and maritime security. Even powers like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the United States have deep strategic and economic interests here. So, when Ethiopia announces its intention to build a naval base, it's not just a message to its immediate neighbors. It's a move that ripples across the globe, forcing these major players to recalculate their strategies. Will they see Ethiopia's presence as a stabilizing force or a disruptive one? Will they support its ambition, try to block it, or use it to advance their own goals? Ethiopia's dream of a port is now entangled in a web of global power competition, where every move is scrutinized and has far-reaching consequences. This quest for the sea isn't entirely new for Ethiopia. It's also an attempt to reclaim a lost part of its identity. For centuries, the Ethiopian Empire had connections to the sea through various coastal territories. In the 20th century, it maintained a small but proud navy, which was based in Eritrea. When Eritrea became independent, the Ethiopian Navy was dissolved. It became a peculiar footnote in history, a navy without a coastline. But the dream never truly died. In 2018, Prime Minister Abiy announced plans to rebuild the navy, even without a home port. Now, with the Somaliland deal, that plan has a potential destination. The vision is to create a modern, functional naval force capable of protecting Ethiopia's future maritime trade, deterring potential threats, and participating in regional security operations like anti-piracy patrols. It is a symbolic act of reclaiming a glorious past and a practical step towards securing a prosperous future. But building a navy from scratch is a monumental task. It requires immense financial investment, technical expertise, years of training, and a secure base of operations. The question is whether the Somaliland deal will provide that secure foundation, or if it will be a source of perpetual conflict. So, we return to our central question. Will Ethiopia become a maritime power by 2030? The ambition is clear, and the motivation is powerful. The Somaliland move represents a concrete, albeit risky, step towards that goal. If this deal holds and Ethiopia successfully develops its port and naval base, it could fundamentally reshape the economic and strategic landscape of the Horn of Africa. It would give the nation the economic independence and security it craves. However, the path forward is filled with enormous challenges. The fierce opposition from Somalia could escalate into a wider conflict, potentially scuttling the entire project. The complex web of regional and global interests could either support or suffocate Ethiopia's ambitions. And the sheer logistical and financial challenge of building a port and a navy from the ground up cannot be underestimated. The next few years will be critical. Ethiopia is playing a long game, betting that its vision for 2030 is worth the diplomatic and political risks of today. The nation is at a historic crossroads, and the world is watching to see if this landlocked giant can once again reach the sea. What do you think? Is Ethiopia's gamble a brilliant strategic move or a reckless provocation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this analysis insightful, please hit that like button and subscribe to eGreen channel for more deep dives into the stories shaping our world. We'll see you in the next video.